So there you got your bar analogy. You find your meeting you feel comfortable with. Go for the, the good stuff, right? I want the good stuff. I don't want anything that's bunk. So what else is significant about my early recovery? The other thing that happened in my early recovery, how did I find out I was an alcoholic? I was not really thinking about cocaine or pills very much when I was newly sober. I was thinking about drinking, which was very much a surprise to me because I really thought I was just a drug addict. I didn't think I liked alcohol. I didn't realize until much later in that what I liked about cocaine is that it allowed me to drink more. It allowed me to kind of feel, in a weird way, sort of sober, but okay, I didn't know that, and I thought I just, but the thing is I would drink without doing drugs, but I would never do drugs without drinking. That sounds just terrible to me. And so those were things I realized. I also realized I did manage to work at a restaurant again in early recovery, and it was a full bar restaurant. And I do remember somewhere around 30 or 45 days I was bussing these tables, and there were these half-empty glasses of some crazy New Orleans cocktail, because it was like a New Orleans-style restaurant. And I went to the bus station, and I picked up, and I looked at it, and I wanted to drink the half-empty so badly. And I kind of laughed at myself at that moment. I said, oh, you really do belong in Alcoholics Anonymous, Jackie. And then it was like, oh my God, I really do belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. It stopped being funny like immediately. I was so upset. I was so upset to finally realize I was an alcoholic. And, it didn't, I used to take Benadryls like nothing else when I was in early recovery. So, it doesn't take much to kick my ass, frankly, because like I said, I am that comfort-seeking missile. So if it gives me comfort and I can pop it, drink it, smoke it, any of that stuff, and do a couple other things as well, like I'm going to do it and I'm going to abuse it, because without the steps and without God and without being of service and without this fellowship, I am uncomfortable in my skin, and I don't like being uncomfortable. I really don't like being uncomfortable. There are normal people, I think, who can tolerate being uncomfortable better than I can. That's all I know. And when something offered me a quick solution, I would take it. So it became very clear to me in that moment that alcohol was going to kick my butt, right? Whether or not I did drugs or whatever, that alcohol was going to kick my ass, that alcohol was my master, that I had been defeated, and that there was no way that I would use alcohol safely. And that's when I realized I was an alcoholic. And that's actually when I got on my knees later in that day and I asked God for help. I became willing to use the word God, and this is the last story I think I will tell. But I became willing to use the word God through this. There's a saying, your higher power can be anything. It can be a doorknob. I know there are people who just hate that saying. I hear people rail against that saying in meetings. And you know what? That saying saved my life. Because I did not choose a doorknob for a higher power. But sometime in that early recovery period, that's all a mixed blur of these different important little events that happened, somewhere in that first 30, 45 days, I had this thought. It was in my head. It was a thought, and the thought was, you need to find a way not to be mad when they talk about God. That is not a Jackie thought. That is not a thought that Jackie does not find ways to be comfortable with stuff that she thinks are unjust or unfair. And I thought it was very unfair that I had to hear people talk about God. Because I had this idea that Alcoholics Anonymous should be like my group therapy, and that there are better ways to run this, right? And then I realized, after a while, that AA is not group, and that's okay. AA is not a treatment center. It's different. It's a different thing. What we do here is different. What we do is this one-on-one work with alcoholics doing the 12 steps. And we have these meetings, not in order to process our feelings. We have these meetings so that a sponsor and a sponsee can meet each other. They can help each other identify as alcoholics and find ways to better work the steps and have a spiritual awakening and pass it on. That's what AA is. But I thought AA should be something different. And I definitely didn't think it should use the word God. And so normally what I would do, a Jackie thing to do, would be find a bunch of people who also agree with me how unfair it is that we have to listen to the word God and talk about this. And we could all talk to each other about, how unfair it is and be mad and really enjoy that resentment and feed it. That was what Jackie does. But Jackie had a thought, was given a thought. I think it's grace. somehow I was given this thought of you need to find a way not to be mad. And so what I did is I decided, I remember, I know that saying, you can choose a doorknob. Well, I said, I'm not going to choose a doorknob. I'm going to make a turtle my higher power. Because there was this story that I had read when I was young about the universe being carried on the back of a giant turtle. And I really liked it back then. And somehow I remembered it. And I had found this little statue of a turtle. And I was like, this turtle is, I made a decision. A turtle is going to be my higher power. And I would go to meetings. It's not that I actually thought like God was a turtle, right? Or that there was a God. I just thought like, this is funny. And now I don't have to say the word God. And so I stopped saying the word God, and I would go to meetings, and when we said the serenity prayer, I would say, Turtle, grant me the serenity. And when we read the steps, I thought it was hilarious because I was going to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of Turtle. And I just replaced the word God with Turtle, and I started carrying this turtle statue around, and I looked forward to saying the serenity prayer. I didn't get mad when people said God because I thought of turtle. And there was something kind of started to be nice about that idea of the turtle and being carried on the back of the turtle. And I started sleeping with this little statue of a turtle. And there was this one day where, my whole life I hated waking up. I hated waking up. I love that state of just kind of laying in bed. And it's kind of like an opiate, you're kind of like a half-drugged kind of thing. And I never liked getting up, but I had to get up to go to group on time. Otherwise, my rehab was going to last forever, right? So, but I had this problem that I had a really hard time getting up in the morning. And so I remember the first night I took the turtle statue with me to bed, and I slept with it. The alarm went off in the morning, and I had a thought. It was my own voice in my head, but like I said, it was the thought I think that came from somewhere else. And the thought was, the turtle wants you to get up. And I got up. I didn't snooze at all. And you know what? I was never late during the rest of my rehab after that, because every morning I would think to myself, the turtle wants you to get up, and somehow for the first time in my life I was getting up and not snoozing and not being late. So this is the point, right? It's not that you need to believe that God is a turtle, right? The point is that idea, right, the God idea, the higher power idea, that idea gave me access to some source of strength and discipline and power that I lacked on my own because I am powerless. And that idea somehow gave me access to something. Whether that something was inside of me the whole time or whether that something comes from somewhere else, I don't know. I don't really even care. All I know is I suddenly had it's like you plugged it in, right? Somehow the cord got plugged into the electrical outlet and there was power where there had not been power before. And in many ways, it's like, I don't know why the steps work. In the same way, I don't know exactly why electricity works. But really, all you need to do in the dark is know where the light switch is and turn it on. And that's enough for me, So I have theories about ego deflation and humility and spiritual principles and why the steps work. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. They just have worked. And I've been really blessed to be able to pass it on to several sponsees who have all decided to move to Ukiah or Alameda. And so now I have no sponsees in San Francisco. So I very, very much would love to work and show someone what I did when I worked all 12 steps. In particular, I love to work with women who have never done a 4th step. I know a lot of women who do the 1, 2, 3 shuffle and get hung up on step 3, which is trying to figure out what God is and what kind of God they can turn their life over to. I turned my life over to a turtle, right? So it really doesn't matter. And to me, what that meant was I was just willing to do the next right thing, which was go to meetings and write an inventory. So I love to take women through a 4th step who've never been through a 4th step. And the rest of the steps, they do their job. It all follows, So I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to share. I hope I said something that was useful. And, just keep coming back and work the steps. Thanks.